Standard 1. Make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. From a student perspective, this is how do I start a problem? What steps are needed to solve the problem? Standard 2. Reason abstractly and quantitatively. For this, students need to be able to write or assign values to assist with solving a problem. Standard 3. Construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. Students will need to organize their work, ensure that it's mathematically correct, and make sense of the problem. For Standard 4, which is Model with Mathematics, this deals with how the mathematical problem that students encounter relate to real-world problems or those situations in which they may find themselves. Standard 5. Use appropriate tools strategically. Students need to evaluate the tools available and then decide on a course of action to solve a problem. For example, does this problem require the use of graphing calculators? Is there a website I should be referring to that may tell me more information? And so on. Standard 6. Attend to precision. This refers to units of measure, symbols used throughout the problem, and the ability of students to label work as they go. Standard 7 is to look for and make use of structure. Students should look for patterns throughout the problem and then shift perspective as needed throughout the solution process. Standard 8 is to look for and express regularity in repeated reasoning. Students need to look for general patterns and shortcuts as they try solving problems. So, how do all these standards interrelate? Notice that Standards 1 and 6 have overarching goals of making sense of the problem and using appropriate precision. Students should make a plan to solve problems, check their answers, be careful when using math, and have clear ideas. Therefore, these two standards go under the umbrella of make sense and use precision. Standards 2 and 3 are the first steps students should face when handling a math problem. Both of these standards relate back to reasoning, explaining, and questioning. Students should demonstrate the ability to start a problem and then reason through the values in the problem to arrive at a solution. Students need to use numbers and words to clarify the problem and explain their own thinking and consider the math thinking of others. Standards 4 and 5, which are all about modeling and using tools, are next. Students have already established a basic idea about the problem. Now students need to construct a plan to solve that problem. Students should use tools to assist their understanding, recognize the real applications to mathematics, and to use math to solve problems. Standards 7 and 8 refer to seeing structure and generalizing. Students need to understand what a problem is asking, gather the necessary information and tools, develop a plan, and then strategically solve the problem. Students should understand how numbers and shapes are put together and notice when calculations are repeated. These standards represent a balanced combination of the procedure and understanding of the problem. Students should understand these standards for mathematical practice because they are expected student behaviors and outcomes. Teachers need to understand these standards to more effectively reach students, adapt lesson plans to allow students to engage in these practices, and ultimately influence pedagogy. While the standards have been revamped, reworded, restructured, or however you want to note the changes, the biggest change in what we do as educators is in our instructional practices with our students.